not even believe, because we know Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer. When he is eligible 5 years from now, he is going to have little discussion in the Hall of Fame room. He's thrown for 5,000 yards, I think 7 or 8 times, which is more than anybody else combined, everybody else combined. He is the man. And last year, he only started in 12 games because of a myriad of injuries, and he hung it up after this season. In fact, when I saw this somewhere today, they asked if he was thinking about possibly doing a comeback. He's like, dude, my arm hurts. Like I haven't thrown in 4 months and my arm hurts, which is what happens when you get banged up as much as Drew Brees did over the course of his long career, his Hall of Fame career. But now the task falls to Sean Payton to determine who is going to replace him. Now, last year when he got hurt, we saw Taysom Hill take most of the snaps, not all of the snaps, because in the game that Drew Brees got hurt in, Jameis Winston actually filled in and he held on for the win. Actually led to a couple of scores in that game. And the thought was, all right, well now it's Jameis's team, right? Why not? But then next week, we saw Taysom Hill come out as the starter. And in his 3 starts, he actually played pretty damn good. He was 3-1, in his 4 starts, I should say. He was 3-1. He threw for 72.7% completion percentage, which is a pretty big number. And in my mind, I'm saying, oh, yeah, but he was dinking and dunking the whole time. Actually, he wasn't. His yards per attempt were more than Drew Brees's at 7.7 on the season in those 4 starts. And he is a heck of an athlete, a runner who is diverse, kind of like Lamar Jackson in a sense, because he can hurt you in so many different ways with his legs as well as sometimes with his arm. As you see, if you're watching us on TV, 13 total touchdowns that he was responsible for and 5.3 yards per carry, which is amazing. So a total of basically 1,500 yards in the 8 games that he started. Only 4 of those games, though, were starting at quarterback. But going into this offseason, it kind of felt like, well, maybe, let's speculate what Sean Payton was actually doing last year. He probably didn't pay Jameis Winston or play Jameis Winston because he didn't want Jameis Winston to go get paid somewhere else. Very similar to how we saw Teddy Bridgewater leave after he had to fill in for Drew Brees. And so let me keep this, this project, this Jameis Winston project under wraps a little bit. We'll re-sign him to a team-friendly deal. And then in the course of the offseason and OTAs and mini camps and maybe even in the training camp, he's going to win the job because Jameis Winston is a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not a gadget guy like Taysom Hill. He's a starting quarterback, has had some quasi-elite seasons. And if it wasn't for the turnovers, they would be elite seasons. We all remember back in 2019, he led the league in passing attempts, yards, and touchdowns. But he also led the league in interceptions at 30. So he's been a turnover machine, but that's what Sean Payton is supposed to do, coach it out of him. In my mind, Jameis Winston was winning the starting job. It wasn't even a conversation. However, we are now starting to get some inklings out of New Orleans that Sean Payton is leaning back towards Taysom Hill. Now, Sean talked about both of these players back in February. And that sounds like, okay, you're talking about Jameis. Jameis is a former starter in your division. You've seen him plenty of times. That was from our friends at Good Morning Football back in February. Sean Payton was very non-committal. However, our buddy Ben Volin, who we had on about a month or so ago from the Boston Globe, has been told via NFL sources that Sean Payton is leaning towards starting the season with Taysom Hill. And here is his stated reason. Quote, if the experiment fails, meaning Taysom Hill as a starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, if that fails, then Payton can fall back on Winston, a more traditional pocket-based offense, and move Hill back to the Swiss Army knife role, which, when you think about it, actually kind of makes sense. There is so much potential upside to Taysom Hill. And the reason I say that is because Sean Payton is not a stuck in the mud, I see offense one way. He looks around the league, he looks at what he can see, and he mimics it or makes it even better. And I know this from personal experience because when he was the offensive coordinator for the Giants, one of the reasons that in 2000 when the year we went to the Super Bowl, we changed our offense is because he saw what the St. Louis Rams were doing with Marshall Faulk. And he's like, I think I can use Tiki like the Rams use Marshall Faulk. And we've got Ron Dane now. We got this two-headed monster. We'll call him Thunder and Lightning. And it worked. We had a great adaptive moment that happened at the beginning of that season and carried us all the way through to the Super Bowl in 2000, one that we lost, obviously. But still, we got there, right? So Sean Payton is not a myopically focused head coach or coordinator. He sees things that are happening around the league, adapts them to his own personal stylings, and then goes out with it. So what he's seen across the last couple of years is a guy like Lamar Jackson getting drafted at the back end of the first round for the Baltimore Ravens, and he messes around and wins an MVP in his second season. You see Kyler Murray, who is the number one overall pick to the Arizona Cardinals, go to the Cardinals and he did win Rookie of the Year, right? I think he did. I think he did win Rookie of the Year, but turn into this dynamic two-way player, both as a runner and a passer. And it's been something that he's been tinkering with Taysom Hill, obviously not in a starting capacity because you had Drew Brees as your starting quarterback. He's been tinkering with that with Taysom Hill for a couple of years. And it's interesting because Taysom Hill comes into the game, no matter what the capacity it is. All right, you got to throw this little dump pass. You got to catch this shovel pass. You got to line up as a tight end, or you got to be a running back, arrowing out of the backfield. Like, no matter what role he's put him in, that proverbial, as Volin wrote, Swiss Army knife role, and he's successful at it. And so when I say that there's potential upside, Sean Payton sees that because it's starting to inject itself into the league, right? It's not just a gimmick thing, right? It's teams that are going all in. Greg Roman and this Baltimore Ravens offense is all in on the skill set of Lamar Jackson because he's so dynamic and he can change the nature of a game just like that. Well, Taysom Hill kind of brings a little bit of that to the Saints. And they've been doing things a certain way for so many years with Drew Brees, which is, expanding the offense and pushing the ball downfield and, highlighting the strengths of their quarterback. Well, right now they have two quarterbacks. One of them has a strength in the fact that he's a super athlete. He's diverse and dynamic and can affect an offense in many different ways. The other one has a huge potential upside, but an equally huge potential downside in Jameis Winston. So if I'm Sean Payton, while it might sound crazy because of the quarterback nature of the drop back passing nature of his previous systems, Jameis fits it perfectly. Sean Payton is not a static thinker. And while Jameis does have some potential, Taysom Hill has plenty of other opportunities.